Thank you so much. Wow, it's a lot of people. Really grateful to be here. Really grateful to be here. Actually, 1 year ago today, I traveled 13,000 kilometers with a 5-month-old baby, a toddler, and a super supportive wife, and we moved here a year ago exactly today. So you guys are celebrating our anniversary with us today. I love pretty much everything about South Africa, but how many of you drive BMWs in this room? Raise your hand. I have a question for you. Why do you hate me? Please stop honking at me. Anyway, my title of my talk today is Go Big and Go Home. And these are my two boys. This is home for me, Zurich and Israel. And this quote here has inspired a value in our company. And I actually use this to remind myself. I don't want to use it to beat anybody over the head. But no amount of success at work can make up for a failure at home. So when we talk about going big, we don't use or go home. We think that's a negative way to look at things. We want to go big and go home. We want to pack more into the stream of life. We don't want to sacrifice our families for profits or products or prestige or any of these other things that are out there. Thank you. And so there's actually two stories here, to going big and going home, and I'm going to tell both of them today. One is a story about Over, that's the app that we've built. And the other story is about our personal story, and a question I get asked a lot is, why Cape Town? So hopefully I can answer those two things here. Let's see. I'm going to mention a couple resources that have been really influential for us, and if you want links to those, I've just now tweeted those from our Twitter account @Over. So if you want those, you can go get those now. The first one is Rework. This is a fantastic book, and it was in 2009, right after we come back from South Africa from the first visit, that I read this book, and it really influenced me to think about and want to build products. And suddenly I had a desire to make products because I sensed a process that I could execute that made sense. And this book had a lot to do with it. There's just a ton of really fantastic wisdom. I return to it every year. Again, there's a link on that Twitter account. The other thing is this really 8-page PDF from a Stanford professor named B.J. Fogg. And he just gives really uber practical steps to designing something that change people's behaviors. And he breaks it down, and you hear this term minimal viable product all the time. I would say this is the best description of a minimal viable product and how to get there. It's all about changing tiny behaviors. Facebook didn't start by doing all of the things it does. It started with one tiny little thing. And so we try to focus in on the tiny little thing and have some success there and move on from it. And all of that is baked into this fantastic PDF. So both of these resources influenced me not to start a company, but to start a platform for running really fast experiments. I'd seen friends starting companies. I saw companies fail. I saw lots of things happening around me. And that just scared me a little bit. I was like, I don't want to put everything into this thing and then just see it completely fail. And so I started thinking about how can we run really fast experiments, because to decide to make products means to test, to try, to get something out there. And so our first test was this thing called Potluck. And Potluck was an internal social network similar to Socialcast or Yammer at the time. But imagine having Twitter inside of your business, where you could update what you're working on a regular basis, and everybody kind of knows what's going on within the company that way. So we started building that. Quickly realized with the three guys we had, myself and two guys, that this was going to be way too much to support. Enterprise software was way too expensive, and businesses had crazy needs. We had about 20 organizations on this. So this was our first experiment. Our second experiment, because we figured out we couldn't do the enterprise software things, we pivoted it to this goal-sharing software, which was more consumer-focused. We only had to update it for a customer instead of individual businesses, and so it made more sense. And the idea here was people could share their goals and update their statuses and how they're moving towards those. And we actually had a little bit of success with Goldsmith, and so we followed it. And I started designing an iPhone app with it. And on Goldsmith, we actually had two versions. We had a web-based version, which took me 3 to 6 months to build, and we had an iPhone version that took me 3 weeks to build with an iPhone developer. So remember, I'm trying to run really fast experiments. I was like, no more web for a minute. I'm going to do this app thing. This is obviously a much, much better way for us to run quick experiments. So I started working on the iPhone version of it and making it a lot smoother. And one of the things we had an idea to do was to allow people to put their goals on top of a photo and publish it to Pinterest and create sort of a viral loop to get people to come back to the app. So we're experimenting, we're testing with these things, and we built this app called Pin Goals. And it was just a prototype. I started showing it to people, and it was at, I think, South by Southwest 2011 that it hit me. I was like, this is it. We're just going to do a core technology that puts text on photos, and then we're going to come back and do this goal thing. We'll do some baby thing. We'll do some sports thing. Anything that you want to put on a photo, we'll have this technology to do. And so then Over was born. And I went back to my wife, and we have these agreements. If there is sacrifice that has to be made, I say, sweetheart, the next 6 months of our life is going to be insane. Are you comfortable with that? She says, yes, but I want this size vacation at this time. And we create these little miniature agreements. And so I sat down, I said, we're gonna hustle for this one, and in 3 months we built Over, and I built it with an outside team. My original 2 guys had left me, and I built it with an outside team, and the entire app was designed in Apple Pages. I didn't know how to design in Photoshop or any sort of Adobe products, but I knew how to write proposals and create specs, and I knew how to draw boxes there, so I just made a giant PDF. It's probably this big if you were to print it, and every single slide and every single screen, I just drew it and sent it to the engineering team. And they were blown away. They were like, we've never seen anything like this. And so to this day, we still design everything in Keynote. It doesn't touch any Adobe software. All of our things are drawn in Keynote. Anyway, we've had a little success with this. In our first 3 days of being live, we sold $5,000 worth of copies. And within the first 18 months, we've now had 8 million downloads. And we've also had gusts of up to 1 million monthly active users a month. Right now, we're somewhere around there. So it's pretty insane. And what we've learned is people are using it for all sorts of things. This is actually examples of some things people have made, the more artistic stuff. But you guys, I've gotten reports, people are documenting their botany daily. They are tracking their pregnancies. They are making flashcards for medical purposes. They are selling high-end real estate in New York. The gal from Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran, her company uses Over every day to sell real estate in New York. It's the most bizarre thing. And so it started to hit us, and we started getting these reports of people saying things like, I'm an ex-Photoshopper, and I'm using this as a Photoshop replacement. And we started getting this vision and saying, oh my gosh, like, maybe we could be Adobe for mobile. Maybe there's something here. And we're watching Adobe try to get into this space, and it's not really in their DNA. Mobile isn't their thing. And so that's kind of where we're headed right now. Our big goal, and right now we have a team of 6. We were a team of 3 up until 2 months ago, just hired 3 South Africans, and we have a guy in Sweden who has some special image rendering technology. But our goal in the next 5 years is we want to be on your CV. I want to create tools that are so useful to you on your mobile phone that you would actually include it as a qualification for employment. It's kind of a big goal, and hey, we might not get there, but we're going to try. And actually, we only are iOS right now, but the Cape Town team is focused completely on Android. So we're hustling to get to you guys. I'm sorry it's taken so long. We're actually borderline death threats right now on our accounts. But when it comes out, I'd love to have you guys test it and give me your feedback and see how we can get there. So there's a few principles that there's some core values we talk about in our company and have sort of driven us. This is a big one. Forget the cart and ride the horse. The very first business I ever started, I went and I negotiated this contract. I wrote the contract up, and I got them to make out a check to this business that didn't exist yet. And after I got the check and I'm looking at the business name, I said, well, I better go register this company. And also with Over, we did not have an accountant until we had 500,000 users. My wife was doing everything. And I use these 2 stories to illustrate this point. Forget the cart, ride the horse. It's really, really easy to get distracted with administrative operational setup and business structuring and lawyers and legals and all the crazy stuff. Just build products and get it into people's hands as quick as humanly possible. It fixes everything. It drives everything. And so forget the cart, ride the horse. The second one is embrace complexity to find simplicity. A lot of people talk about keep it simple, make it really, really simple. Simple is ridiculously hard. It's so hard. And simplicity isn't born of trying to be simple. It's actually born in immersing yourself in a problem, immersing yourself in a customer, in a target audience, and who they are and what they want, and really understanding all of the complexity that there is. And I tell you what, it's painful. It is the hard work. understanding your customer is the hard work, and the complexity of, and the psychology and all the things. But when you do, what happens is you start to, your brain works. This thing can process big data, guys. That's why it was made. And you see these big, big complex situations, and you start to see these tiny threads. And I call those tiny threads the things that most people call, I wish I would have thought of that. So embrace the complexity to find simplicity. It's not moving forward here. There we go. The second part, and it segues well off that last one, to be a great creator, you need to be a great consumer. You guys, before I built Over, I spent $2,000, to my wife's dismay, I spent $2,000 in the App Store on apps, just testing, trying, laying in bed and testing every single UX, UI convention there was out there, getting really exposed to what are apps and what are people looking for, and where can I break the rules, and where do I need to follow the rules, and what are people really wanting and looking for. I think to make products today means to be a good consumer, so make it a budget line item. Make testing and experimenting and consuming something you just do. Try Uber, try the apps that cost money. I actually get myself addicted to games like Clash of Clans for fun, just to understand the psychology. What is it driving people here? Why are these people making $1 million a day? And what is driving people to do that and understanding it? So to be a great creator, be a great consumer. The other one is live a great story. A big reason why my wife and I are here in Cape Town, South Africa, isn't it a better story? I mean, we could have gone to Silicon Valley and got ourselves a shoebox and lived there for, and it could have been there, but it's not as interesting. Like, this side of the world has got so much more interesting things going on, and also great stories have this thing, you have goals, right? You can say, here's our goal. But when you fail that goal, it just feels bad. But if you're in a story and you're trying to live a good story, those failure points, those inflections, those valleys, those dips actually become part of it. It makes it a little easier because you're like, this is just, it hurts now, but I know I'll like this later. And you have these ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and that is business, that is life. So living a great story, I think, is better than setting big goals. Who am I and what do I want? The two most important questions you can ask yourself and that I ask myself and our company all the time. To the depth that you can answer these two questions, directly proportionate to the depth of your satisfaction, your productivity, and your contribution to whatever you're trying to do. Because to know yourself and understand who you are and what you're capable of accomplishing allows you to do all sorts of beautiful, amazing things. You're functioning from what you do best, from what you're most passionate about. And a lot of people talk about a product market fit. I like to challenge people to look for a passion market fit. Product market fits, and some guys, their passion is just finding products and executing, and that's awesome. But try to find something that's really special to you, find something that matters to you, and then find a market, because that's going to last you a lot longer. I mean, we only have a bit of time on this earth. Let's make sure we're doing things that are meaningful and really matter. So that's the business story. So now I want to talk about Cape Town for a second. And Cape Town is really special to us. In 2009, actually, before I tell about Cape Town and how we got here, let me tell my backstory. I'm from the States, if you couldn't tell from my thick accent. And I was actually born in Portland, Oregon, which, for those of you who don't know, that's where Goonies was filmed. I actually grew up on the coast. How many people have seen Goonies? All right, hipsters, all right. I'm only hipster curious, so. So the Goonies was filmed in my hometown, literally. I've never found the treasure. One-Eyed Willie isn't real. Sorry to break your bubble there. But I watched this movie. I lived on the coast. I was a cold water surfer, and so I needed to escape. I watched this movie, Endless Summer 2. And when people say they watch a movie hundreds of times, they're lying. But I have watched this movie hundreds of times, and there's a massive section on Cape Town in there that exposed me to the beauty of the city and what was going on here. It was from a surfing angle, and back then I had no idea that this place was like it is here. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that this probably influenced me. Anyway, I moved to Southern California after I think I graduated high school. And then I went to college for a year and dropped out to join what I didn't realize was a startup. And then I moved to Central California for a little bit. I've been all over the West Coast. And then I moved to Kentucky, of all places, to join a startup, of all things. Did you see that gray dot there from Silicon Valley to Kentucky? I don't get it. But it was in Kentucky is where we built the business. And from Kentucky, where I met my wife, we got out of debt. We started thinking about, hey, let's live a more interesting story. Let's go somewhere. And so we visited Cape Town for like 7 months and absolutely fell in love with this place. It was unbelievable. Literally, guys, we came off, we saw the pictures of the city here, and we're like, yeah, okay, right. But there's going to be mud huts, right? And we still have troubles convincing our family, who have both visited us this year, that this place is a really advanced city. No, I'm serious. It's an advanced city, and it really doesn't get it. And so I'm posting enough pictures, hopefully, to get people to realize that it's just not the case. So we came to Cape Town. We got really inspired. We didn't really have anything of value to bring here to get visas or anything at that time. So I had this goal. In 1 year, we were going to start a company, adopt a baby, and move to Cape Town. That was the plan. So we start this adoption process. We end up going to Ethiopia and having a really hard time getting our son home. We packed for 5 days and ended up having to stay for 3 months. While we were there, I got so sick. I had a parasite and an amoeba eating me alive. It was near-death experience. Had to go to an Ethiopian hospital, the last place on earth you want to go. And I was dying. And then for the entire week as I was recovering, I laid there and I was angry at our adoption agency. I was angry at the Ethiopian government. I was angry at our government, our embassy, for screwing everything up. And I wanted to change things. I was just like, I've got to do something about this. And it was in that moment of just a bitter morass that I realized the best thing I could do was to continue building this tech company and generate so much value that I could wield some influence and maybe change some of this stuff. So it was in Cape Town I was inspired to do the business. It was in Ethiopia I was inspired to grow the business. And we brought this guy home. And this is Zurich, really sweet guy. And then something happened. We got pregnant. So please don't judge me. I was starting a company and getting stuck in crazy Ethiopian hospitals, so I gained a little weight. This is my wife at 30 weeks and me at 30 years. And this is them, was Zurich holding Israel at 5 days old. This is the first time together. Don't worry, everybody was weeping too. It was the most beautiful moment ever. And so then in July, now back to the business story and how that sort of collides with our personal story. Then in July of 2012, we launched Over. And again, we started having immediate success with it, started getting featured. And I went into this moment where everybody was like, you got to go fundraise, you got to go get money, And my very first investor meeting was with all the prestigious ones, Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia Capital, and this other guy named Michael Deering in the Valley. My very first investor meeting. I had never met with anybody before, and I'm sitting here like spewing this big vision that surprisingly we're doing still today. And nobody would give me any money, guys. Nobody. I had traction, that holy grail that people call traction, and I couldn't get people to give me cash. And so I went to an angel investor, my wife, and she put in the remaining money that we had saved for a home, and we built a new version of the app that I just knew. Honey, I just know this is going to work. If it doesn't, I'll get a job. That was sort of the terms, the ratcheting terms. And we had 7,000 downloads in October. We launched the version. The next month, we had 468,000 downloads. And so begins our epic, meteoric rise. I was able to get an engineer at that point. I was still just doing it with ragtag people I could get together. I was able to get an engineer to join, and onward and upward, we started heading for 8 million users. And right when we started getting all that success, my wife and I applied for our visas. We said, now's the time to get back to Cape Town. So in 1 year, we wanted to start a company, adopt a baby, and move to Cape Town. Plans changed. It took us 4 years. And we also had some babies in there. Then when we get to Cape Town, we're here for 2 months, and Starbucks calls us, and they want to do this thing, and we were basically in every single Starbucks for free across the entire U.S. and Canada, and that was awesome. But then Apple contacted us for this big opportunity where they were having a birthday, and they were going to give 10 apps away for free, and we were one of those 10 apps, and the only photo app. So we were prepping for it. We built this store where people could download things and spend additional money, and the campaign came, and we thought we were going to get, we estimated probably 100,000 users in a day. We actually got 1 million in a Monday, on a Monday. I was sitting up in the RSA web offices, squatting on their internet up there, and this was all happening. And while this was happening, guys, my store that we had just built was breaking. So 1 million people were looking at our app, and they couldn't buy anything. I was livid. I was screaming. I was swearing. I was cursing the sky. I was mad. I went on a walk to go to pick up some biltong, like a good South African does, and on my way there, I'm angry. I'm screaming, and I look over, and there are 4 guys sleeping on the street. And I'm mad about millions of users not spending money with me. And it was in that moment that I was absolutely reminded of what was happening. And I was seeing this as an epic fail, and I was suddenly reminded of what matters, of why I'm trying to generate all of this value. It was to change things like that. So let me talk to you about the ultimate campus. Why Cape Town, guys? So some people go to San Francisco, and they work at Facebook, and they have friction-free lives, right? They wash their clothes, they wash their dogs, they feed them free food all the time. It's friction-free living. Here in Cape Town, I like to say we have oceans, mountains, culinary wine, coffee, music, art. It's kid-friendly. You get a really sweet flat for what you'd pay for a shoebox in San Francisco or New York. This, you guys, is the ultimate campus. And there are a ton of engineers here. You guys are just making less money. You need to ask for raises. Sorry, business owners. But this city not only offers this beauty, and I mean, I drive to work and I can choose. Do I want to see the 12 Apostles, or do I want to see Devil's Peak? And what a place to be inspired. What a place to feel creative. I look out my patio, I can see Robben Island, inspired by freedom every day. I look at the mountain and I'm reminded of scale, of building something big that's meaningful, that lasts. This city truly is the no-filter city. You don't need a filter, you just take a picture. You also get reminded of real problems. Like, there's real problems here. In San Francisco, they're getting bussed around with Wi-Fi buses, and they're fed the whole way there. Their problems are they have protesters puking on their windows because of how much it's affecting the city. We have real things to look at, and I think that's going to allow us to be more creative. And I think that's going to give us the right ingredients to make things that matter, make things that last. And this is just a great place to be, and I'm really grateful to be here with you guys. Really looking forward to the next 25 years of building with you. That's what it takes, looking long term. And yeah, super thank you. So here's my Twitter account if you have any questions.